There's a narrative in League of Legends that says Faker, the greatest player of all time for most people, certainly the most decorated great player in history, has this unparalleled history of longevity. And that just isn't the case when you examine it or if you have watched his career. Even worse, it is suggested that thanks to this insane amount of championships he has, this makes him, with his longevity, has to be the GOAT. You can't even consider anyone else. And actually, his longevity is utterly singular in League of Legends. Also not true. Even worse than all of that is then the inference, which is then a corollary thought, that the people who did have insane longevity, some of it still going to this day as elite players at their position or in the world, they actually are just overlooked or completely downplayed, all sacrificed to the fucking cause of Faker being the only great player in history who really can ever be the GOAT, etc. Now, in the context of this video, when I say longevity, well, let's be real. They don't just mean if Faker just keeps playing and then he played an LCK Challenger or he played like as a bad support role swap. That wouldn't be longevity like they mean, because they're meaning longevity in the context of showing that he is the GOAT and he is singular and he's the only one that stayed at the elite level all those years, world's best player. Remember, he was given PC Player of the Year last year at the Esports Awards in an absolutely insanely fraudulent award win, which was a fucking disgrace. So we're talking about longevity in the context of being an elite player, either at your position, which is a bit more sparing, or most crucially, as in the case of Faker being the GOAT, it has to be as an elite player in the world. We're talking like top 5 player in the world material, not your position in the world. So that is a big deal too, position versus world. And then also, it's not about simply playing a long time or just being vaguely relevant or being on a relevant team that wins, but you aren't the bus driver. This is one of those discussions about being the bus driver. And when you're talking about being the GOAT, you mean you're the main bus driver. You're the main reason you win. You're the main carry. You're the main person you play through. You put the draft to. You carry the games. Everything goes through. You make the plays. You dominate the opposing star player. In those contexts, Faker hasn't been Faker for about 7 years, by the way. So we will get into that. But when it comes to great longevity, Ridge, the makers of these wonderful wallets, has it nailed. I've had one since 2020, so that's 4 years. This is obviously a second one they sent me like this year. I had a different one. It was kept going. I would have never replaced it. It was totally in fact just had a little bit scratched because I had it in my pocket with some keys a million times over, because at the time I didn't have the key case, did I? Did you know they have a key case? One of the best things, if you don't know about the key case, fit a few keys in there, is listen. Doesn't do a jingle jangle. It's not annoying. You won't have keys sticking into it or scraping your Ridge wallet for that matter. And then also fits up to 12 keys. So consider the key case. That's a banger right there. But the Ridge wallet itself, they have a unique slim design. Look at the size of it. 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 It's really small, fits in your pocket. You can fit loads of cards. You can fit more than I've put in. I've got these many. I've got stuff like my Dutch travel card there and a bunch of like bonus cards. On the back, you can put like I just put this one. So I just put little like bonus cards in that you scan at supermarket and stuff. You can put a money clip on there if you want. You can put all sorts of shit on there. There's also a coin tray that you can have that goes on the back. So you can put coins in. I don't use coins personally. They're for beggars. I'm not one. I'm a patrician, aka elitist. So don't use coins personally. But if you do, they've got that. They've got RFID blocking wallets to stop people digitally nicking your information. This one's just a nice blue one. Brings out the colour in my eyes, doesn't it? That beautiful Kwisatz Haderach look that I've got going. Over 50 colours and styles. So everyone's going to find something they like there. It's got 100,000 5-star reviews. If you don't like it, after 99 days, you can send it back. No questions asked. And also has a lifetime warranty. So there you go. Shout out to Ridge for sponsoring this video. You can get 10% off any of these items or anything on their store using the code Thorin, Thorin. It's obviously the name of my Twitch channel. It's the name of my x.com account, Thorin. Unique code link you'll find in the description and in the comment section, but it's just ridge.com/Thorin. Use the code Thorin, get 10% off. I absolutely recommend it. I already used that style of a wallet anyway. Theirs is even better, even more slim design, smaller, less annoying than the other one. Doesn't have a button on that makes it spring out and suddenly go on the floor when you're on a tram set. This one, you pull it out yourself and it keeps the tension because of the band on it. So I think it's an excellent wallet personally. Now, when we get into this topic of how elite Faker was, I'll just run it down briefly, but then we'll look at his career. So it goes like this. First of all, there's 1 year where they make a crucial mistake with Faker. which is season 3, his rookie year, he might have been the best player ever. He was the best player in the world. It did look incredible. People like Flame contested him from top lane, and people like Ryu were good, but he was more of a team player and a captain in some ways. You had people like Imp was very good. You had some people that were very good, but Faker was the best player. Season 4, I noticed they always skip over. Season 4, it wasn't just SKT that had problems. They definitely had a lot of problems elsewhere. But Faker himself wasn't as good. Like, he was just spamming stuff like Xerath and Ziggs and stuff. And it didn't look as good. He didn't look as good. He played a little bit more safe. I think maybe the pressure got to him of being the number 1 in the world in only his sophomore year. He had kind of like a good year personally, but he wasn't the elite player. People like Dardy and Paul were way more adaptive to the champions that you could play at the time. That was a year where he had a sophomore struggle, believe it or not, despite having a killer debut album in this analogy. But early season 5, it continued. The Korean Exodus happened, so the league got way weaker. Like, Coco was his main rival in fucking the mid lane, by the way. And then all of a sudden, you had Faker actually just having those problems in SKT. Couldn't play Zay. They were playing Easy Hoon for just mage play because they were playing through top lane and playing through bot lane. And so actually, obviously, he got it going after that. He was pretty good at MSI. Then he was mega in summer. Then he was really good at Season 5 Worlds. So even in that year, it wasn't his best year, even though some people want to say that's the best team ever. Might be my pick for the best team ever. So there's a second year of being elite overall. Then we go Season 6. I'll give it to him that one. Yeah, he was a world-class player. Could have been the best mid laner. I think Smeb was the best player, but he could have been the best mid laner. Right up there. There's 2 years. Let's say there's 3 years. Let's be generous. That's 3 full years. Slightly less. And then we'll do Season 7. I actually thought he himself was a bit scuffed in summer, but he was good throughout the rest of the year. Obviously, he had a great performance at Worlds. Let's give him that one as well. Right? That is, did he count that? Season 3, Season 5, Season 6, that's 4 years. 4 years as an elite top 5 player in the world and potentially the best mid laner. Potentially. Sometimes the best, sometimes not. 4 years. Even if I'm being generous, let's say we can pop another half a year in two different parts of his career. Let's say we make it 5 years of truly elite player at the top. So that means I'd say season 8 to season 10. Season 8, he had a bit of a mare, but he wasn't the main reason why. I think SKT absolutely betrayed him, how they played and the players they put around him. They put some players who had no business being in SKT and kept some players who had no business staying. You saw what happened to people like Bang when they went to America. I think season 8 to season 10, he was still pretty good. Let's say he wasn't a top 5 player in the world, but he could have been like, the 10th best. He still had some hands. At mid lane, he'd already started to become more of the clutch, like I performed in the finals, but not as much in the regular season. But he's still a pretty good player overall. He just wasn't a world-class player. Actually, people like Caps at times could be better than him. At times, people like Rookie was much better than him in this era, by the way. Xiao Hu was better than him. Fucking Showmaker, Chovy, when these guys came along, they were just better players. Yeah, they might not have been as clutch in finals, but finals isn't everything. The problem you have is this. If someone's amazing but doesn't do it in the finals, they're still amazing. If someone's not amazing and only does it in the finals, they're not amazing. Do you understand the difference? If you don't, you're lost, so I don't need to discuss it with you. Then, if we do season 11 to season 14, so right up to now, he's not even vaguely one of the most elite players in the world. And at his own position, he's barely ever been elite in that time period. He's had maybe a split or two when everything came together and Meta smashed him in the face and he played 2 or 3 champions, but he's never had the big champion pull. His laning's not been as good. He just has really big clutch plays. He performs at international tournaments. He has the aura around him where people see the name and they play scared. He's a shot caller and a clutch player and a captain. That's why I say Xiao Hu's actually who you think Faker is, because he actually had hands until a year or two ago and still has it sometimes in the playoffs, but I guess so can Faker occasionally. He's not been the best mid and he's been nowhere close to the best player. Performing at Worlds isn't enough, just as not performing at Worlds, although Chovy has, isn't enough to condemn a Chovy or a Knight. So what's funny is, we're going to look into this a second. So we saw his career here, but after season 7, I mean, there's a reason it's more sporadic, the championships. And there was only 1 Worlds win and it was last year. He's not as elite. He plays the most important position and he has to rely on people like Carrier, like Zeus to be really, really good. Like I said, in season 8, season 10, when he had people like Teddy and fucking Khan was pretty good in that team, though I'll give him credit then. He was still a pretty good player and he could be the carry sometimes. But here's the problem is when I just told you it's 4 years for me of elite longevity and it's 5 years, maybe if I'm generous with other seasons, right? Well, here's the problem. Now let me tell you about other players that have actually had all the years of longevity, basically. So we're going to look at some. 4 to 5 for Faker. All of these players are 6 or more. So I'll go in order of like above Faker and then we'll get to the ones with the craziest. So Chovy, Oh, that hurt some feelings there. Yes. Chovy was the best laner the second he entered the LCK. So season 8, they came in for summer. He was already pretty good. So there's half a year. Then season 9, there's a reason his team's in all the finals, etc., by the way. He's a fucking unbelievable player. He had all the stats at the time. So there's a year and a half. Then you have when he was on shitty DRX, we're still dragging them into playoff positions. So there's another year it's mega. So that's what, 2.5 years already. Then Hanwha Life, he's dragging them into position and taking them to the Worlds and going top 8 with people like fucking Vista and Willa and Morgan. So there's another year. So that's 3.5 years. By the way, he's half a year already from matching Faker's longevity. Now, yes, you could argue, are there differences of how good the elite player? Yes, certainly, but we're talking about being elite. So there's 3.5 years. Then 2022, he was actually a contender for best player in the world. So there's 4.5 years. Then last year, he was fucking unbelievable. So there's 5.5 years. Then this year, we haven't fully finished it, but it's going to be this year. That's 6.5 years, or 6 years if I'm being ungenerous to Chovy. He has 6 years. Faker by my account has 4. There's Chovy has already cleared Faker's longevity. I didn't say he's a greater player than him in history. I didn't say he's a greater player than him in history. I said longevity, he has more longevity as an elite player. Then we will go to the next name, and that is going to be Xiaohu. I didn't even do, by the way, Showmaker and Canyon, because I think they're more debatable. I think sometimes they did have years where they just weren't actually as good as people think. Xiaohu also clears Faker, because we're going to go all the way back here. So he enters the LPL in season 6. If you don't know, he made his first 4 finals in a row. He was already a very good player. Listen, maybe I'll be kind and say he wasn't as sick, but I'll count this. First year's 2016. 2017, they're very, very good. They could have won Worlds. 2018, they win MSI and were in position to do the Golden Road, and he was amazing. I think he even won an MVP this year. 2019, he was the main carry. Uzi was actually starting to have some issues at this point in time, and Uzi often took the beginning of springs off. 2020 was when they moved to the shitter lineups, but there was no MSI that year. So that was more of a down year. Let's take that year off. So you know what we'll say? We'll take 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Let me just look at the, because the difference is all pro, since they're not a top team. I guess in theory it's impossible to make it if you're this bad. That's the problem. And he's not even getting mid-weekly awards. No, that's okay. We can take that off. So we're doing 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. We'll miss 2020. So that's 3 years. 2021. This is when he played top lane. It was maybe the best top laner in the world. So that's going to be his 4th year. He's already matched Faker. 2022 was where it got a bit sus towards the end of the year, but you still made it to Worlds and still made it top 8. You weren't quite as sick then, but you were very good here. You did win MSI. Let me think about this one. You can actually go a lot more by the All-Pros in LPL, by the way. A lot of player of the game. That's pretty fucking good. Your second team. That is pretty good. Summer. What? Okay. Oh, the individual awards have moved. That's why. Most MVP. In fact, it wasn't the MVP of the league, but he had the most player of the game awards. He had a load of, I'm saying this year as well. So that's 5. There's 5. 2023, I'll give you. I don't think he was that good in 2023. That was actually kind of a fluke run to the finals. I don't think this year he was that good either. Right? That's 5 years. That's still more than Faker. And it could have been 6 if you wanted to count another one. But I'm going to say 5 from memory. Then we're going in order here. Then we are going to go to Scout. Remember that? Scout is Faker's understudy. He had more longevity as an elite player than Faker, by the way, as the main carry. He's still the main carry to this day if you don't know. So we'll go back. 2016, he joined immediately. They're mega relevant. From summer onwards, so that's half a year we'll give him there. Then we will go to 2017. They're mega. He's mega. I think he wins the MVP maybe even in the summer split. So there's 1.5 years. 2018, still pretty good. Scout was really good still. So we're going to say 2.5 years. 2019. The team's also a lot worse, but I don't know. Would it have been Scout? Let's have a look. He's not doing so much this year. He's not really cooking. Oh, no. This summer he's pretty good. So let me go back. So if I'm doing 1.5 years, 2.5 years, Let's give him another half a year. So we'll say 3 years. 2020, they were a bit more sus in general. It's one of the worst times in their career, but they were getting through the roster that would eventually get them to win. So what's that, like 2.5 years I've already got so far? Okay, we'll stick with 2.5 years. 2021, I'm obviously going to pick that. 3.5 years. 2022. See, I still seem to remember he actually wasn't this bad this season. I think it was the lineup got to shit. See what I mean? There you go. Right, for summer did they start doing that, eh? Putting this over here. One there. It's still quite a lot. I think I'm going to give him another one. So that's 3.5 years. Last year, I'm definitely giving it. He was the double MVP. 4.5 years. This year, I still think he's been really good. There's 5.5 years. And I'm trying not to be too charitable. There's 5.5 years for Scout. Faker was 4. Some people might say 5. Then we will go to, and by the way, you could do more. Someone probably with eye test could even say he did more years. Mako's going to be a good one. I obviously did an article about him on my Substack. So if you don't know, he was 5 years voted best support player in China. He's already got Faker's longevity cleared instantly. But we'll go back. So he came in the league, he was the best support player and one of the better players in the whole league. He was actually one of the carries of EDG for many years from support. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think he was still good in 2018. 2019, he was on and off. 2021 says 5. Let's say 6.5 years. Because if you don't know, he was second team All-Pro. He was first team All-Pro this split. 6.5 years for Mako. Now let's do one of the players I do think is overrated, but you know what? I'll give it to him that he was a carry in most of his career, Uzi. Uzi was mega overrated early on, so I don't really care about 2012. 2013, I still don't think he'd quite gotten cooking properly yet to be elite in like a world-class sense. Season 4, I'll give him, even though he was a little bit quieter in the league, but I'll give him season 4. Season 5, he had a bad year with OMG. Season 6, he redeemed himself, so there's 2 years. Let me see, 2 years. Yep, there's 2 years. We give him 2 years. Season 7, I'll give him. There's 3 years. Season 8, of course, there's 3 years, 4 years. Season 9, it's already debatable for me. Let's have a look here. How did he do? Third team, and that's probably a legacy vote. He was good, but he wasn't as good. There's quite a bit in the summer. Okay, in the summer, maybe he can have half a year. Oh, and second team. You know what? Maybe I'll give him this year as well. 3.5 years, you say that? Could be 4 years. And then 2022. Actually, you know what? Maybe Uzi is slightly less. It's because I'm thinking a lot of people from my test would say Uzi every year, so I thought he'd actually be like 8 or 9, but he isn't. Then the one that's going to make you really upset. Faker fans are about to lose their mind because they don't ever comment on the game. They don't analyze the game. They comment on results, qualifications, and other people's opinions. They don't say, well, Rookie wasn't the best because of these reasons and give actual reasons about how he played. They didn't watch him play. They're not interested in watching him play. This is just a Messi fan who will never acknowledge Ronaldo's the best. So he'll just always figure out a reason why you're a dick sucker or you're wrong or you're biased or, well, where's Ronaldo's World Cup? Never anything about the player because they can't look at the game. That's not even what they're here for. They're just here to be a fan. So Rookie, you can argue was already good in KT when he won. This is Arrows, not Academy. But I didn't think he was that sick here. So maybe I give him half a year, but I don't know if I even would. Season 5, he was already pretty good. I'll give him 1 year there. Season 6, there's another second year. It doesn't matter that they're bad. He's fucking sick. Season 7, he was unbelievable. So there's 3 years or 3.5. Season 8, he's mega. There's 4 years. Season 9, he was good for the majority of it. And got into the world. So let me think. What's that already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In 2020 was when IG was a bit more sus. But see, they were even first in spring. In summer, they were third. They just fucked it in the playoffs. From memory, I think this is when it started to get a tiny bit more sus. But there's also when I think he got inted by the Shy in the regionals. So let me see. See what I mean? I think this gets to count as well. Also, I'll just quickly look. How many MVPs did he actually win? I think he won like 3 or something. 4. 2022, he even won the MVP for fuck's sake. And people say he's been washed in season 9. Jesus. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I say 6 there? 6. I feel like this was the one maybe where he dropped. But then we're going to say 7 for 2022. He was still really good. That was the V5 year where he was carrying him to position with a fucking HOTS player, and Fortic, who even back then could fail. So then we're doing what? TES was actually pretty good for a bunch of this year. Maybe I'll give him half a year. So that's what, like 5.5? And I'll give him half a year here as well. So I could even have been generous and said a year, but I'll say half. So let's say 6 years for him. So there's already clearing Faker. And then the last one, and this is mega. Oh, I've actually realised I could also have done Peanut. Maybe we'll do him afterwards. Let's do Peanut, shall we? He's also, spoiler, good at clear Faker. Now, true, he doesn't play carry role. So if we go to Deft, right, Season 3, Deft wasn't that sick. He was much in the shadow of Imp. Season 4, he was very good, but I don't know if he was actually truly like an elite player for like top 5 of the world. He was probably more like top 3 ADC, because I actually thought Name and Imp were better. So maybe I don't even give him this year. Maybe I give him half a year. How about that? Maybe I give him half. I'll think about that later. EDG was definitely elite. There's 1, because he got his laning fixed. There's 2. 2 years in EDG. KT Super Team, he was mega in both years. So there's 4 years already. Kingzone. From what I remember, he was actually not the problem in that team, but I'll just go and have a look. See what I mean? Where's the All-Pro? They didn't used to have it back then. Okay. So maybe half a year there. Okay, it's not such a good split, is it? So maybe half a year for 2019. Let's go look at that again. So we're doing 1, 2, 3. Actually, we'd say 3.5. 4.5. 5. 2020, I actually thought it was like, for me, it was him and Chovy with the men, right? So 4.5 I have so far. Third team. Obviously, I'm not as big a fan of these, but you'd think when you're on the bottom teams, you can't be bad in that. I don't think you get to count that year. You don't get that year. So we're going to say 4.5. Hanwha Life. I'm trying to remember how good he was on these teams, because these were obviously train wreck fucking teams, weren't they? Holy shit, Vista actually got 6 player of the games. That's fucking insane. Okay. Deft didn't even make a team, so we're not giving him this one. They have 5.5 at the moment. Didn't even make a team this time. Okay, we'll take that one off, 2021. 2022, he was like the best player on the team for me, and obviously, but I don't think it was like one of his better splits. I remember he was just good. Oh no, there we go. That's actually fucking mega. What are we talking about? I mean, the reason he's third team there, by the way, is because look where his team is in the league. You're not going to get to be there with 2 teams winning this many games and get second or first team, mate. That's not how Korea works. Let's look in summer. Did he do it again? He's actually more of a spring merchant at the moment. Didn't do it. We'll give him half a year there. So what's that, like 6 years? 6 years, I think I'm up to. Dan 1, I absolutely maintain in spring he was one of the best ADCs in the world, the best players in the world. He was actually very good. Summer, I'm not sure about that. Do you know what I mean? Summers seem to be his downfall. So maybe, so 6.5 we're talking now. In KT, You don't think you can say he's one of the best players in the world, surely. That feels like a reach, right? They're not going to give him it here anyway, but still better than Faker. Then maybe let's just do Peanut last. We're just showing people who have real longevity, by the way. By the way, there's also other people I could have picked from the LPL, but I just didn't. So it's all good. I'm just showing you what real longevity looks like. So Peanut was like a talent when he was in Najin. Then in Rocks, he was already pretty good. Would he actually have been... I mean, he was a mechanics player back then, so people would have said he was one of the best junglers in the world. He wouldn't be a top 5 player in the world back then, so maybe I give him half a year or something. Actually, that doesn't make sense. No, maybe I don't. He also had his issues here. The problem he has is I do think he became super cracked in latter years. I mean, some of these years, he definitely is. You can probably say 1, 2, 3, 4... maybe even the last 5 years he was, and you can maybe throw another one. It says already more than Faker. That's real longevity. This is actually Messi all over again, where because they have him as the GOAT, you can have him. It's a legitimate GOAT candidate. Because he's the GOAT, he's the best every season ever, or it's someone else's fault, or you're just hating, or you're just jealous, bro, or wow, you suck someone else's dick. Again, no analysis of the game. Because if you know ball, Messi was unbelievable for his first what? I mean, the first couple of years, he took a few to get rolling while he was still winning UCLs and La Ligas while he wasn't the best. But he absolutely had, what, a solid 10 years where he was cracked to fuck. I'd say he probably had two more years where he was like top 5 player in the world, top 3 player in the world. But then he definitely, you go like 2019 or basically PSG, that sort of era onwards, he wasn't relevant. He wasn't relevant. And the fact that he came back later and his team won with him scoring a load of penalties in the World Cup is irrelevant. That doesn't give you longevity, mate. That means you just did something as part of a very good team later. In, by the way, a tournament format where it's not the UCL. Like, you have to actually be from a country that can win the fucking tournament. So he stopped being elite years before then. By the way, way before the end of Ronaldo, who's years older than him, if you don't know. Ronaldo was still cooking in fucking, not only Juventus, but, and I won't say he was super world-class in Man United, but he was still fucking killing it in the Champions League, scoring 20 goals a season. The reality of Faker makes it obvious why he doesn't have the longevity. One, he came along very early on. I suppose he had an injury for all these years. He can't take time off. He can't have a year off. He can't have a split off. He's Faker. Then he's probably got burnt to fuck. Imagine how burned out he must be. No wonder he's bashing his head off a wall. He has to win every split because people like you tell him he has to because he's the GOAT every single split. Then he's got insane pressure from fans, but also his org. He's now getting paid like $4 million a year or something insane. That's bonkers money. If you're in Korea, you have to do your duty. You have to actually fucking live up to that. Then he's done the captain swap, so he's got all the fucking stress of having to think about the game, shot call, look what the jungler's doing, maybe even jungle for the jungler sometimes, fucking like interact with the lanes, roam. This guy is not a guy who's trying to be the smash lane, carry, snowball player, but if he isn't, that means he can't be the best. Then also, his greatness has come in other dimensions. Now, if you want to talk about longevity as a shot caller, we can have a different conversation. And he has 2 Hall of Fame careers. One as a shot caller and a captain. One as a hard carry mid laner, who's one of the best in the entire world and elite. But he wasn't overall. So people, as usual, have gone way too far. In doing so, I always say this. You know why you can't give Faker credit he doesn't deserve? Because there's a finite amount of credit. If he's the best, someone else can't be the best. So you're taking from Scout and Rookie and fucking Mako and Zhao Hu and Chovy and Knight. Could have put Knight on there, couldn't I? He obviously had 4 or 5 years at the top. You're taking their credit to give it to him. Now, I always give this example. Before Faker came along, the best mid laner in Korea was Ambition, and he'd already been a great player for like over a year and a bit. Now, imagine if people kept taking Faker's credit and giving it to Ambition the first couple of years and going, well, until Faker's been as many finals as Ambition, then he doesn't get to be as great. Then Faker wouldn't have had the season 3, no matter how well he played. He'd have had season 4, he'd been called a bomb and a washed, he didn't make it, a bust. Then season 5, he'd have started cooking when Ambition was irrelevant. It was a jungler. See what I mean? That would be really fucked up and unfair, wouldn't it? In the same ways, it's fucked up and unfair where you didn't watch the LPL, but you take Name's credit as the best ADC in the LPL and give it to Uzi because you watched Worlds. It's really unfair. So yeah, that's why Faker's longevity, as it is perceived and I would say gaslit by fans, is absolutely fraudulent.
This is LS, and you're on Thorin's YouTube channel, so cut the Western shit.
Everyone needs a support network, and mine is, of course, my Patreon community, the Scrominati, who, in many ways, they're the Sonny to my Cher, saying, I got you, babe. So this video and all the others on my channel were kindly supported by the following names: Ahmed Hadjou, Mac Pugnatio Rajcula, Adam Tomlin, Animosity, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Tooorin, and you know it. Jerky's Minion, my main man, always going to be referenced, one of the best patrons of all time. Would you like to ask a question in my AMA? Maybe you want to suggest a topic or a guest to say on my channel? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming Reflections and Talk to Thorin interviews are? Maybe you want to do one of those long discussions where you get to set the topics we talk about. Well, if any of these or others appeal to you, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Skull Illuminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.